In this video, I'm going to share with you the absolute worst sports card to buy and why, and then I'm going to give you some examples, and this is fitting because the baseball season is just starting up, all right? This is how sports cards works in a nutshell, okay? It's like the 2008 housing crisis, all right? I know some of you guys are probably like, what the hell is he talking about? The reason the economy failed, long story short, is because there was a lot of mortgages backed by nothing. These banks were giving out mortgages to people that could not afford them. And eventually, the whole thing just crashed. People couldn't afford their mortgages. Banks went out of business, and that's why the economy failed. It's like that for sports cards, except 3 times a year. Football, baseball, and basketball. Let me explain. With baseball right now, I just sold a bunch of baseball cards. And to give you one example, like Jackson Merrill. He's a player on the San Diego Padres, and his cards really shot up a lot. He played pretty well in the spring training, but they really went up a lot. And this happens with all sorts of other cards in February and March with baseball because people get excited that baseball is around the corner. They think this player is going to be great, that player is going to be great, and these prices go up. But they go up based on just speculation and based on just people thinking that this player is going to be great. Just like the housing crisis in 2008, right? It's backed by nothing. And then what happens when the sports season starts, like baseball, for example, most of these players don't perform up to expectations and skyrocket down. They don't just go down a little bit. They shoot down a lot because their value should be here, but it's all the way up here. And then once they don't play as well, it shoots back down. And this is especially prevalent with baseball because young players in baseball don't perform well. Just a lot of the times they don't. Like Mike Trout, his first year, I believe he was called up in July. That first half a year he was in baseball, didn't play that well. Then that next full season, he crushed. Now, I'm not saying that no guys will go up in value, but generally the few guys that skyrocket in value are the guys nobody's buying. Like, to give you an example, in football, 2 years ago, the one quarterback that really went up a lot was Jalen Hurts. But nobody was on Jalen Hurts. Like, nobody was buying him. His cards didn't go up at all before the season. So you have to kind of find that diamond in the rough if you want to buy someone and his value to shoot up a lot, which is obviously very difficult and it's not sustainable because nobody knows what player is going to skyrocket. So long story short, what I tell all my students and what I'll tell you guys watching this, if you do buy and sell sports cards, is if you're going to invest in a baseball player, the best time to do it is like October, November when baseball's down. The worst time to do it, and the time everybody does it, is like in February and March because you're buying at its peak, right? Simply said, buy low, sell high, not buy high and sell low. And buying right around when the season starts, you're buying high, right? Because these values are lifted because people get excited that the season is around the corner and they want their favorite player, or they think this player is going to be great, or they got excited that this player is starting opening day with their team, etc. So hopefully that makes sense what I just said, but I'm going to show you on my computer to illustrate my point. Let's go to my computer. If you're enjoying the content of the video and want to learn how to make a side income with sports cards, I spent the past 3 months putting together a training to show you exactly how it's done in detail. Sports cards has allowed me to live a life beyond my wildest imagination, and I'm thankful for the hobby every single day. That is the reason I teach sports cards, and I'm so passionate about it. At the end of the training, we offer a paid program where you can work closer with me. However, I do not want you joining until you've watched the training I put together. It will show you exactly what's inside the program and how to make money with sports cards, and from there, you can make an educated decision. If you'd like to sign up for the training, either scan the QR code on the screen or text the word ERIC to 973-755-9486 or click the link in the description. Just to repeat it, if you'd like to sign up and watch the training, scan the QR code or text ERIC to 973-755-9486 or click that link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. All right, so check this out. So since baseball season is starting up, I thought it'd be fitting to show you some baseball examples from last year and to why not buy cards of baseball in the beginning of the season, because this is what happens. So let's take an example here. As you can see on my screen, this is Mr. Juan Soto. If we look at what his PSA 10 sells for, so this is an app called Alt that'll show you a long history of sales, and we take a little scroll down, this is the first example of others I'm going to show you guys. Take a look at this. So let's scroll down a little bit. So March before the season, right? The card was worth, a PSA 10 was around 3,300, 3,700, 3,600, 3,400, right? Right in that like low to mid 3,000 range, right? Scroll up a little bit. He didn't have the best of seasons, right? August, boom. Look what this card's worth. 1,800, 1,500, 1,900, 1,900, right? So he didn't have the best of seasons, right? So it's not like he had a horrible season. He just didn't perform up to expectations. But look how far your investment dropped because of how much it was hyped in the beginning of the season. All right, that's example number one. So I pulled this up, and these were the American League MVP voting, okay? And these are people who obviously had really good seasons, right? If you're in this list, you had a really good season. So check this out. Bobby Witt, right? He had a good season last year. So you would think, okay, if Bobby Witt had a good season, his cards would go up, right? That is what makes sense. So if we take a look here, this is a Bobby Witt Bowman Chrome Refractor. I'm looking at the PSA 10 sales here, and let's take a little scroll. So if we go here to the before the season started, there's a few sales of 2,100, 2,200, 2,300, 2,600, right? That's what this card was worth before the 2023 MLB season. Well, if we scroll up, by the end of the season, look what it was worth. 1,400, 1,700, 1,600, 1,200, 1,700 again, 1,200. The card, look how much your investment dropped. And there's also, he didn't start off so hot, but at the end of the day, he had an amazing season. And it just wasn't worth more than before the beginning of the season. And the biggest reason for that is because most stuff just falls when the season starts, because people kind of get that realization like, oh my God, maybe the player I invested in isn't the next Mike Trout, right? The best example I could give, like I always do, is it's like the 2008 housing crisis. A lot of these values over here before the season, they're based on just hype and speculation, just like the 2008 housing market was just backed by nothing. And then boom, it just falls. And the last example I'll show you is, so Yordan Alvarez right here, he had a really good season. Whole time he was strong, great season, always performs well in the playoffs. And check this out. So this is a refractor, PSA 10. And buying this before the 2023 season, you would think to yourself, all right, he had a great season. It obviously went up in value. But if you look here, this case is actually not as bad as the others. But if you look before the season what this card was worth, it was worth like 600, 700, 660, right in that range. And if we look towards the end of the season, it didn't go up, right? It's worth the same. So even when you win, right, Yordan Alvarez had a good season, and he had a good playoffs. When you win, nothing. Still, you don't make any money. And it's not because there's anything wrong with sports cards. It's just how the market works. It's just there's too much hype and speculation in the beginning of the season to buy these players then. And don't get me wrong, there's always one or two players that do skyrocket out of nowhere. But usually these are guys, someone like that nobody's on, that like nobody's buying. Like just to give you an example from the 2022 season, Aaron Judge like didn't have a lot of excitement. He was an older guy. Not many people were buying him, and he had an incredible season, and his stuff just skyrocketed like 3-4 times. So it does happen once in a while. And just going back to this Yordan Alvarez example, right, the card never went up in value. And check this out. His playoff stats, look how strong he performed in the playoffs. This is it. These are insane stats. Like, this is insanity. Like, this looks like it's made up, but it's not. And it still, like, didn't go up. So, point I'm trying to make is if you want to buy this stuff, wait. Don't buy it in the beginning of the season. Most stuff falls, but let's head back to the camera. So hopefully that video made sense. And honestly, the most alarming thing about that whole entire video I just made is Yordan Alvarez. Like, if you bought his cards, you crushed it. The dude had a great season, and he crushed it in the playoffs, right? You would think if he did that in the playoffs, hitting 465 with 6 home runs, right, his value would go up, but they just don't. It's just how sports cards works. You have to buy it when it's low, like in November, December. It's very hard for a player that kind of everyone's buying and everyone's on to go up a lot. They really, really, really need to perform well. Now, you can take all the stuff I'm telling you, you can do the flip side and take advantage of it, right? You can buy baseball in November, December, late October, and sell it in February and March, right? Like, that's how I make a lot of my money. Like, when I'm speaking right now, it's March of 2024. You'll probably see this video in April, and a lot of the stuff I'm buying is football. I don't know how well you can see that behind me, but football is cheap right now. And if you really want to put a cherry on top, what you would do is, I'll give you an example. So I bought a Shohei Ohtani card in around October or early November, knowing it was cheap, and I got it graded. It graded a 10. So not only did it grade a 10, but the value was appreciating when I went to sell it. I believe I sold it in late February. So I'm buying it cheap, getting it graded. Also, while it's sitting at the grading company, it's appreciating, and I ended up selling it for, it was a trade and cash deal for 30 grand. So, right, I put the wind in my back, right? I got the card graded, and I was buying it at its low point. That's how to kind of kill two birds with one stone, and that's how to make money with sports cards. But the worst card to buy, which a lot of you guys probably do, and a lot of you guys probably have, is like baseball right when the season starts, or football right when the season starts, or basketball right when the season starts. Because reality is, most young players don't live up to expectations. Just how it goes. Also, a lot of these guys are inflated. I promise. Just, if you don't believe me, keep looking at cards from last year and see before the season and after the season. You'll be shocked. But hopefully this video made sense. Like, comment, subscribe. Comment below. Let me know what other types of videos you would like to see me make. I'm always open to it. I'll see you in the next one.